Hello and welcome to Gangzone here. My name is Ryan Sampson, the host and producer of the show. He is the Jets beat writer Brian Costello. This is Gangzone here, Week 5 preview against the Vikings. And Coz is in London. We're going to preview this Week 5 matchup against the Vikings. We're going to talk about what happened last week against the Broncos and how bad that offense looked and how bad overall that performance was. We'll talk about Davante Adams comments and rumors, and we'll discuss everything that goes into this week if you stick around and watch Gangzone here. But before I get to anything else, Coz, I know you're over there in London. How you feeling? How's it going over there right now as you're getting ready for this game on Sunday?
I'm tired, Ryan. I think I got off the plane 4 hours ago, something. So I need to go to sleep, and then I made the mistake. It's like, I'll get room service. I ordered a burger. Burgers aren't the same in London.
No,
I should have just got the damn fish and chips. Like, yeah, it's the only thing they have here that's like they're known for. So I resisted it, but I should have done with the fish and chips because the burger was terrible. So.
It's like that one thing that's known about England or London is that the food is just not good anytime you're going to go there.
So the food from like international food is good here. Like Indian food is really good here, and
Right.
There's a lot of good Middle Eastern food here. But there's not much English fare that's any good.
No, unless you're.
I shouldn't have ordered a burger. I don't know what I was thinking. So. Not good.
Or like blood sausage or something like that in the morning. I know the breakfast they talk about that. If you're a big tea drinker, that can help you out to keep you awake. In case you're
not a big tea drinker.
No, I like tea. Tea's okay. But Coz, while we understand you're in London, this game's going to be Sunday morning, 9:30. Let's discuss what happened last week before we get into the actual game itself for Jets versus Vikings. For Jets fans, we were so excited after that Patriots game. The offense looked like it was humming. It was starting to click. You're starting to see Aaron Rodgers look like Aaron Rodgers again. They looked like they were taking progressive steps. And then last Sunday, it all came crashing down in a rainy, sloppy, ugly game against the Broncos. And I just wanted to get your take on, what did you see? What was your takeaways from that game against the Broncos on Sunday?
Yeah, things changed quickly. That was my main takeaway. We were talking last week, we were asking questions about handling prosperity, and that changed quickly. So it was a terrible game, Ryan, terrible. All on offense, they were just horrible. The penalties, just no production. The offensive line was brutal. No one really had a good day offensively. So the question becomes, is that a one-off? Was it, it was a sloppy day. The Broncos defense might be pretty good. We don't know yet. It's early in the season, so we'll see how that plays out. But, the Jets think they're pretty good. So it could be a one-off, or it could be a sign of things to come. I mean, that's the question now. And I think, if it's a one-game bad day, that happens. I think you go through every Super Bowl champion, maybe other than the 85 Bears, they had a bad day against Miami. But there's always going to be, bad games that teams have. Remember, the Chiefs lost to the Raiders last year on Christmas, right? And then didn't lose again. So it could be just a one bad day type of thing. We'll see. I think that's the question now is, can they bounce back? Can they show it was a one bad day, or is this going to be how the season goes, where they have some games like the Patriots game, some games like the Broncos game, and they'll be dancing around 500 all year, I think, if that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's a great question from you. Is what version is this? Is it a one-off? Is this signs of concern? I think a lot of Jets fans, including myself, were reacting to the fact that it was a ton of penalties. It was bad. It looked like bad quarterback play, even though I thought Rodgers had moments after watching the film that you're like, okay, that looked like vintage Rodgers. And then there was a lot of moments where he missed some throws and you're like, okay, that didn't look great. And just the overall dysfunction from the offense itself, from the cadence, from the false starts.
Cadence.
That's where I'm going to here a little bit. And my next part of this question is, we hear from Robert Saleh after the game. It's something we'll talk about with the cadence. And then we hear Aaron Rodgers say, well, that's one way to think about it. And then there's other ways to address it. Maybe hold guys more responsible for what they're doing. And I think Rodgers is right in this sense because, and we all know this, cadence is his one of his best tools. Besides his lively arm, he uses that cadence better than anyone besides Peyton Manning, probably I've seen in my career, where He draws defenders off sides. He has the most touchdowns drawing defenders off sides and getting the free play. It keeps defenses a little bit off balance. It's your advantage. And I understand this is a new offensive line. This is new team for Rodgers because he played his entire career with the Packers before that, and he didn't really play it all last year. So there's a learning curve there. And you can only do so much in training camp nowadays. The problem I have, though, is that your coach, he gets caught in these moments after the game when you guys talk to him. And I know you guys are asking these questions because you see it just like we do. And he has these moments where you're like, did you really just say that? Because your quarterback is completely disagreeing with what you're saying. And he's kind of calling you out. And us as fans, we've seen this song and dance before with the penalties, the undisciplined. I mean, they were the most penalized team last year. And I saw more of the same this past Sunday. That was a game that looked like 2022 and 2023 Jets. And that's what was most alarming for me, Coz. For you, what was most alarming about this past week? And is it the cadence thing that, again, is just another moment for Robert Saleh? What are you doing?
All right, so you gave me a lot there to unpack.
I gave you a lot. I'm sorry. I had to.
Let me try to get my thoughts together. So, yeah, Saleh says some things he shouldn't say, and that was one of them. No one asked about the cadence. The question was about penalties. He brought it up. He brought the cadence up, and then he brought the operation up. That being said, I think the question wasn't presented 100% accurately to Rodgers. What Saleh said, the question, Saleh never said he was going to dial back the cadence. He never said those words. He said they needed to see if they're good enough for the cadence. And I think, that could mean a lot of things. That could mean changing personnel. That could mean, do they have to do more in practice to get them ready for the cadence? It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do less of it. When you present it to Aaron Rodgers that he said we're going to do less of it, that's insulting to him. If you presented it and said, he thinks you guys might not be good, like this team might not be good enough to handle the cadence, that's putting it on the offensive linemen. And I think Rodgers views it differently. So I think Rodgers' reaction was to how the question was phrased. And it's tough sometimes when you're in these press conferences to phrase it exactly. And I'm not criticizing the reporter at all. I think he didn't do it on purpose and it just happened. So that being said, Saleh did say cadence. He brought the topic up and he shouldn't have. And yeah, he has to be more disciplined in these press conferences, not to do that stuff. Terms of like the discipline with coaches, right? I used to be with you and think, oh my gosh, the coaches. Remember like Rex, they had 20 penalties in a game one time. And, but through the years, I've talked to coaches over and over about this. And I've kind of come to their side of like, this is not on them unless it's like personal fouls. So like Greg Williams, when he was here, there was a ton of roughing the passer things. And I thought that was on Greg Williams. Like, you got to tell these guys to be more disciplined. Roughing the passer is a discipline penalty. I don't necessarily think every penalty is a discipline penalty. And like, I looked it up the other day. This may have changed. I think I looked it up before the Monday night games. The number one penalized team in the NFL right now is the Houston Texans.
Correct.
And the number two team is the Baltimore Ravens.
Correct.
Is John Harbaugh a good coach?
He is.
He is. Is DeMeco Ryans, does he look like a good coach? I know he's only good. Right. So, some years the Chiefs are the most penalized team. Like so I don't think there's a direct correlation. And I get it. You guys are tired of the losing. You're Saleh's in his fourth year. I understand the reaction, but I don't necessarily think this. I don't know, like, what is he supposed to do?
Well, here's my pushback on this. So Saleh in the fourth year, you led the league in penalties last year. You looking like you're going to be close to the top 5 again this year.
They weren't before this game though, Ryan.
They weren't before this game, but they had 13, which put them up for tied for third. I looked at it as well before that Sunday night game for the Ravens. They were already tied for third after Sunday's game. The thing I have a problem with is that pre-snap and post-snap penalty, you can't, and Saleh even addressed this, which is what's interesting. He's like, pre-snap, we can address those. We can figure those out. That comes down to the coaches drilling into the guys, and also it comes with more reps with playing with Aaron Rodgers. The false starts, you got to be able to understand that Rodgers is going to try and draw that defense off sides. It's mind-boggling to me that Breece Hall is false starting twice in one game. You're standing right next to the quarterback in shotgun snaps both times. Yeah. And then the other one that drives me nuts is a young player in Will McDonald, not just once, but twice. You line up off sides. That's pre-snap stuff. That's stuff that you can drill into your players. And when Saleh says, these are grown men, they know what they did wrong. The film shows it. It's like, okay, you say that, right? You say that, but I need to know, what are you doing to correct? And what kind of
So I'm looking at it right now, Ryan. They're 12th. They're tied for 12th in pre-snap penalties. Okay.
All right.
Tied for 12th. So like, it's not like it's like, oh my God, like
it cost them a game on Sunday, did it not? In that first, you're talking about 4th and goal, and you decide to do a hard count.
They had a horrible game Sunday, game. But I don't like. I think everyone's reacting to one game as like, oh my God, this is what we've seen all season. It was.
Well, it's what we've seen in the past.
Going forward, I mean, I don't think it's consistently like I said, if they were like the old Raiders and getting personal fouls all the time, I think that's discipline. I got a feeling every team feels this way about penalties, like when they have a game like that. So right now they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're tied for eighth most penalties in the league overall. But again, like there's teams: Baltimore, Houston, Cleveland, Green Bay, Miami, Dallas, Seattle. I mean, I don't know. They're getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? Will McDonald should know not to line up offsides. I don't blame the coach. I blame Will McDonald. This isn't high school football. Like you know what you're supposed to do. Like, don't line up offsides. That doesn't seem that hard to me. And like I don't like. Do you guys want him to bench him? Like, is that what you want? Like, is that what's the discipline? Like, because I asked him the question the other day. Like, do you make them take laps? Like, do you make?
He doesn't believe in doing push-ups.
Make them do push-ups. Like, I'm with them. That stuff's silly. That's high school bullshit. Like, that's not stuff you do in the NFL. Like, these guys, you hold them accountable in the meetings, and I agree with them too. They know they messed up. I don't think John Simpson felt very good about himself that he jumped off sides at the 1 yard line. So it's if it's a recurring problem with one player week after week after week after week, I think you have a point. Then I think you gotta bench him or do something. But I don't necessarily think there's a way to coach for guys not to jump off sides. Like they're not telling them to jump off sides. I think there's things like pass interference. You can work with guys like Todd Bowles used to do practices where they had tennis balls. He would make them practice with tennis balls in their hands so they couldn't grab.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff. But like, I don't necessarily think there's a way to coach, like in training camp, if they jumped off sides, they came out for a play. And I just don't, I think it was a horrible day. It was a horrible game. Let's see what happens going forward.
Right. I think, again, we've dealt with 3 years of quarterback inability, the worst quarterback play in the NFL, you could argue. And now you have a Hall of Famer playing quarterback for you, Robert Saleh. There's no more excuses. So when I think it was a little bit shocking, Coz, is that we saw more of the dysfunction we saw the last 3 years on Sunday. Because
I wouldn't call it dysfunction, Ryan. That's the wrong.
Well, you call 3rd and 1. You call and mind you, you had a huge timeout in the game because Broncos player was getting carted off on the sideline, and you draw up a Solomon Thomas fade. So that's Nathaniel Hackett and dysfunction there. And then I would call dysfunction also on
dysfunction. It's a horrible play call.
Horrible play call, but how do you draw that up? And then also on the one touchdown you do give up, it's a broken play, miscommunication. There's just so much of this. Like these should be cleaned up, buttoned up things that were just. I'm sorry, Coz. Like it that looked like 2022, 2023 Jets again. Yeah, on Sunday, it really did.
Yeah, I agree with you. It did, but it was one game, and it was in a horrible conditions, right? And against, I don't know what the Broncos are, right? Like I don't know if they're going to be. I think they're number 2 in defense right now in the NFL.
They held Baker and the Bucs to, I believe, 7
they
points.
beat the Bucs, who look like a pretty good team.
Yep.
So they might be a good defense. So we might look back on this differently in 2 months. These things are hard at the beginning of the season to know what teams are. But again, like I feel like they're 0-4, and like the reaction is they're 0-4, and they've looked like this every single week. Like,
Well, week one,
they look pretty good.
week one they look like crap. Week 4 they look like crap. Week 2 was like it was a struggle, but they got a good road win.
Yeah, and then week 3 they look good.
Right.
Yeah, and at week 1, I mean, they did not play well. They did not look as bad as they looked this week.
No,
there was more signs of hope in week 1. The run defense was the killer in week 1, but
right.
It's I just think. I get it, Jets fans. You're hyper focused on the Jets. I think if you took a long lens and you watched every single game in the NFL, you'd see a lot of teams doing a lot of the same stuff. And there's only 2 undefeated teams in the NFL right now, right?
No, I know. I'm not expecting undefeated. I just think it was a very winnable game at home. And again,
it was. It's a horrible loss.
If Zerline hits that kick, they win that football game, and we could just say it's an ugly win that they were able to escape.
Yeah, and
I hear you.
The point too. The guy makes a 50-yard field goal, which he should make, right? In the NFL, you win the game and you walk away with so they still could have won the game, but it was a horrible loss. I'm not trying to downplay the loss. I just don't think. I think the reaction has just been over the top of oh my god, the season's over basically. It's one game.
I wouldn't say the season's over. I just think we're alarmed again by the coaching. I think that's the thing that I just want to keep hyping up here, just because.
Well, how about the players?
I think the players. So this is what we can dive into a little bit more as well.
How about the guys? The players. I get coaching, but
So one of the things I wanted
weren't good, but the players played terribly. I feel like they get a pass. It's
well, coaches, it's all about scheming, right? Because when I watch guys like Matt LaFleur, who takes a Malik Willis off the street and wins 2 football games with him, I go, that's good coaching. He knows how to coach to that guy's strengths.
You said before, right? They had the worst quarterback in the NFL last year, right? Worst quarterback play in the NFL?
Last year, yeah. For the Jets, yeah.
So 7 wins is pretty good with the worst quarterback in the NFL, isn't it?
You had a top 5 defense, yep. I don't know if you have a top 5 defense this year.
They do right now. I mean, they're number 3 in defense right now.
Number 3 in defense, but we can again talk about the players that are not showing up week to week. So we'll start with Garrett Wilson. I want to get there a little bit in this offense. But we could talk about the Rodgers. The 4th and 1 cadence was not a smart play in my opinion, because you don't get a new set of downs there in that situation. All you do is you move that ball up barely a couple inches. Yeah. So I don't understand going for the hard count there on 4th and 1. The other thing though is the Garrett Wilson factor. Garrett Wilson, we heard his comments this week, and I think they were taken out of context as well for what his response was about what was going on with the offense. I don't know, Coz. It looks like there's something off there a little bit with Rodgers and Garrett. They're not on the same page. You saw it late in that Broncos game. He wants him to hit that post instead of hitting the streak up. And Rodgers throws that ball in the middle of the field towards the end of that game, and you see Rodgers go I don't know, guys. Is it a matter of time for these guys to keep developing chemistry? Do you think it's there in them, or is there something more going on with Garrett Wilson? I know they're strong corners, but you've been praised as this young stud wide receiver, and you went up against really good corners. You haven't performed well against these strong corners, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think there's a combination of factors. I think Rodgers is a hard quarterback to play with in terms of I don't think he operates with how the play is drawn in the playbook. I think Rodgers, we see it Lazard is the example, right? You watch Lazard. Lazard knows when to peel off his route, right? There was a blitz in this game early on where all of a sudden it was out of his hands in a second and to Lazard, because Lazard knew turn and catch, right? Yep. He's going to throw quick. You see the back shoulder throws to Lazard. Right? Those aren't by design. Those are things that they're seeing on the field. Lazard sees the game the way Aaron sees it because he's played with them for 5 years now or whatever. So Garrett isn't seeing the game the way Aaron sees it right now. And you can that play is the example where he didn't turn his head, because clearly Aaron saw something where he wanted him when he's going up the seam, turn it in, and Garrett didn't. It's weird because they look like they had good chemistry in training camp. So that's the part that's weird to me, but I do think they can get it. It's only 4 games. And then the other part is he has seen some tough corners. You're right, though. If he wants to be considered one of the best receivers in the NFL, you got to deal with that. Justin Jefferson gets best cornerback too, right? And he's doing okay. So I think what was it, New England? In the New England game, they sort of decided hey, they went away from Garrett. A little bit, because they're okay, he's drawn all this attention. Let's go to Conklin. Let's go to this guy. So they have gone away from him a little bit. in that game. The other games, not so much. I just think, I think he's having a hard time getting on the same page as Rodgers right now. And I think he's getting frustrated, which isn't good. And I'm sure we're going to talk about Davante Adams at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that could make it worse.
Okay, we'll get to there. We'll get to there. We're not there yet. So that's the Garrett thing. His comments this week. While he says the offense, it's not any different. We're not trying different things. I see the frustration in him when he speaks about it.
The route tree part of the comment was the only thing to me that was like, whoa,
yeah,
that was interesting. He said he's not run the same routes.
I don't understand that one. I don't know if that's a Rodgers thing.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of slants, a lot of goes. Yeah, I don't understand that part either, but that was eye-opening to me that he's not doing that. The other stuff I didn't think was that big of a deal. But the route tree thing I thought was legit, and I didn't think that needed context. I thought that was fine. That was an eye-opener.
Yeah, me too. I thought that was probably the thing that, like you said, eye-opener in part that I was looking at and I watched the film and I agree to him. Like, he's not being asked to do as much, and I thought there's also moments where Garrett and I'll say this, they motion him behind the line of scrimmage. They do a little rollout play action. Rodgers hits him in stride, and Surtain's trailing him. Garrett, I just wish he just cuts it upfield. Just go and try and get as many yards as possible. Instead, he tries to juke Surtain, and at that point, you're stopping your momentum. I know that's what makes him special, that cutting and quick feet that he has, but also at the same time, like, if you're struggling like you have been as Garrett Wilson, try and get as many yards as possible and move forward. And I think that's where the Jets offense, it needs to get in that type of mindset, because it goes to Breece Hall now. And that's the other part. We saw probably his worst professional game I think I've ever seen from him. 10 carries, 4 yards, 2 false start penalties. He had more penalty yards than he did actual rushing yards this week.
Yeah.
And they give him the goal line carries. I don't have a problem with the goal line. I mean, I do and I don't at the same time, because the first one doesn't work. You do it again the second time, and then credit to the Broncos defensive line. They blew up that Jets offensive line. I don't know if I would have run the first time to the rookie side. I probably would have ran to my stronger side with Tyron and John Simpson, but that's, again, comes down to play calling. What do you see going on with Breece Hall right now? How do they get him fixed, and how do they get this guy going? Because he is what this offense needs right now to really get humming.
Yeah, so I think this is a different story than Garrett. I thought this was a one really bad performance. I know he hasn't had a Breece game yet.
Right.
He's been pretty good in the other games. Like, Tennessee, he had 30-yard run, he had the long catch, scored a touchdown in San Francisco, scored a touchdown against New England. Like, it hasn't been like, oh my God, what's wrong with Breece in the other 3 games. This one was a bad game. I think he had a bad day. He looked off from the start. It looked like he was struggling with his footing. The blocking was not good. So that part, that was definitely part of it as well. The false starts, he said, he was anticipating the line. They were blitzing so much, the Broncos. I think he was antsy about picking up the linebacker, and he jumped 2 times. So I think that's all it was. But yeah, they need Breece to have a Breece game. I think it's coming at some point. This week could probably be tough. The Vikings are pretty good against the run, weaker against the pass. But they got to get Braylon Allen the ball at the goal line. And, the argument, Breece scored 2 goal line touchdowns earlier this year. I get it, but it wasn't like, I don't know. It didn't feel like the same as like a goal line stand. And if you're going to give Breece the ball once, then maybe you give it to Braylon on 2nd down or 3rd down. You certainly can give it to him rather than trying to throw a play to Solomon Thomas. But, I didn't understand the play calling at the goal line, really. I thought it was pretty poor. So, but I'm not overly worried about Breece. I think he'll be all right. I think he just, he hasn't had that game yet.
Yeah, he hasn't. I wonder, Coz, if defenses are starting to hone in, like, we know that the Jets are always going to go through Breece and Garrett. Like, those are your 2 best weapons, and the other guys are going to be nice complement pieces. I just wonder if they're stacking boxes, these defenses. They're coming with the blitz, and they know if we can stop the Jets' run, if we can stop Breece Hall, it's really going to be just us a matter of containing Garrett and making sure that we just,
I think they have other stuff. Like, I think Lazard has had a good start to the season. I thought Mike Williams had a nice game. I thought I said no one had a good game before. He's the one guy who had a good game on offense. Mike Williams did pretty well. So he's coming. They've got Braylon Allen as a compliment. So it's not like they have nothing else where these teams should be able to take everything away. Like, who are you going to stop this week? oh, we got to stop Justin Jefferson and we got to stop Aaron Jones, right? Like I feel like it's like that all the time. It's, it's up to the Jets to figure out how to scheme open, how to test. So, they're the best players for a reason. You got to get them going somehow, even if the defenses are trying to take them away. They shouldn't be able to take them away every week.
Right. And we'll see. We'll see what happens Sunday morning in London. We're hoping the Jets can get those two guys rolling specifically. Speaking of offensive weapons, the news about Davante Adams, Coz, I think we got to go into this segment here just because it is big news. Davante Adams, officially, we're in this part of the news cycle now where Davante Adams wants out. He seems like the Raiders are going to request his, going to accept his request for a trade. Now it's all a matter of where he ends up. And Jets fans have been praying and hoping for this day for a while now, where it's, okay, Davante wants out, Aaron wants his guy back. This Jets offense, you can get a true number one wide receiver in here, all that. I just want, before we get into the actual Davante Adams discussion, it's Coz's call of the week. I want to play you this sound from Davante Adams yesterday on Kay Adams, or 2 days ago on Kay Adams' show, just talking about Aaron Rodgers and if he misses playing with Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron's the type of guy, he may be in a huddle and he'll tell you in a 2-minute situation at the end of the game, 46 seconds left in the game, and he'll say, hey, Tay or Garrett, like you remember back in 2022 when we got that one look and you didn't look quick enough. Like I need you to just get your eyes around quick. So, filing that away in your memory bank, dealing with the elephant, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
You got to be able to recall and correct some of those mistakes.
Davante, I think you miss him.
How could you not? How could you not?
Just hearing you talk about him, it's an amazing thing that I just think you miss him. That's all.
Well, Coz, after that Kay Adams appearance, it just started to snowball from there. We get news about, now all of a sudden, is Adams going to want out? Because Kay had asked him also, are you going to talk to Antonio Pierce? Because Antonio Pierce liked an Instagram post where Davante could end up, will Davante Adams get traded? He answered about that, about social media and all that. But then he also was asked, are you going to ultimately play this weekend? He goes, we'll see. I'll take care of it. And Antonio Pierce, and they've already ruled him out this week with a hamstring injury. Now we see the Raiders are looking to trade him. Coz, is this a moment for Joe Douglas and the Jets where they have to go all in and get Davante Adams?
I'm torn, Ryan. Like I know I'm the only one. I feel like everyone's like, go get him. I don't know, man. He's 31 years old. Like, I don't know if he's the same player that he was. It's hard to know because he hasn't had good quarterback play in Vegas. It's hard to judge these last couple of years. And I know he's put up numbers, but I don't know. And then the other part of it to me is you have a problem with Garrett right now, right? We just talked about it. Bring in Davante Adams and if you think Rodgers likes to throw to Allen Lazard, I mean, Davante's going to get a million targets. Like, Garrett's not going to get the ball. Like, I think you're going to create a locker room. It's going to be a locker room issue. And now you have 3 wide receivers who are all making over $10 million. So Allen Lazard is now your 5th receiver who doesn't play special teams, and you're paying him $11 million or whatever. Like, I don't know from roster construction if this makes sense. Do you have to give him something next year? Like, do you have to give him some guaranteed money next year? Like, I would think he's going to be looking for like a little reworked contract here before he gets traded. What do you give up? To me, that's not the biggest part. I'd be okay giving up. You're giving up some mid-round picks. I don't know if this is what the Jets need. Like, it's to me, the age scares me. And what it does to Garrett scares me a little bit too. I think you're at a very fragile point with Garrett Wilson right now. He's frustrated. And I know the argument is, well, Davante will open things up because they'll double team Davante. Correct. I don't know if you're double teaming him or if you're double teaming Garrett.
You slide Garrett in the slot, and that's where he's going to be the strongest.
I mean, he's been playing in the slot though. Like, they've been moving him in the slot. He's been there a lot already with Lazard and Mike Williams. So I don't know. I think I think you kind of already have a little bit of a problem of targets, and now you're going to add another piece. I get the argument for it completely. I understand that he has a relationship with Rodgers and he's going to have chemistry with him, and maybe he would make the offense better. But I'm a big one on age. I don't love the idea of a 31-year-old like selling out for a 31-year-old wide receiver. I feel like I was the only one who was against Dalvin Cook last year, and this feels a little familiar to me. Like this.
Oh, come on. He's better than Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook had 4 1,000-yard rushing seasons before the Jets signed him, right?
I understand.
Yeah, I think he's better than Dalvin Cook. I would agree with you. But it's a little bit – I think fans get caught up in names and forget about age. And it's like, oh, my God, we're going to get Le'Veon Bell. Oh, my God. Well, he's not the same Le'Veon Bell that he was 2 years ago. Oh, my God, we're going to get Dalvin Cook. Well, he's not the same Dalvin Cook he was. Like, so I could be wrong. Like I said, the hard part of evaluating Davante Adams right now is the quarterback play in Vegas. It's hard. Yeah, it's
You're
hard.
playing with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, I know ESPN Analytics, Seth Walder is a friend of mine, tweeted out their analytics scores, and he's gotten worse every single year since 2020. Every year he's deteriorated, and that's about being open. That's not really I asked Seth, I texted him, I said, how much is the quarterback a factor? And he said, it shouldn't. Quarterback, slightly, but shouldn't be a factor with the way their analytics are set up. It's about how open you are and yards you're getting after a catch and things like that. So I would have to think long and hard about it if I was Joe Douglas. Now, to me, the interesting one is Woody Johnson. Woody loves wide receivers. I know that. I'm not sure Woody's going to love spending money on a wide receiver after he just gave Mike Williams $10 million. The year after he gave Alan Lazard $44 million. So like you're starting to tie up a lot of money at that position, and you're going to have to pay Garrett potentially after this season. If he doesn't have a good year, though, maybe you're kicking the can down to next season with Garrett. So
yeah, I think you are, just because, and that's where I'm going to push back a little bit. The money isn't guaranteed for Adams after the season, right?
I think you're going to have to guarantee the money, Ryan, is what I'm saying. So I think what's going to happen is whoever trades for him is going to want to get that number lower this year. So I think you're going to have to play with the money a little bit this year. Maybe you make it a roster bonus, which then prorates the money, and maybe then you guarantee something that obviously not what he's not that. I think it's $36 million or something.
36.
You're going to tear that up, like
correct.
Or maybe you give him, I don't know, $14 million guaranteed next year or something like that, or like whatever, something to or maybe less than that, just some kind of guaranteed money next year. I think that'll happen when the trade happens. I don't think someone's going to take him because you want him just for a rental. Like you're going to give up draft picks and you're going to have him for.
Well, again, you're not giving up high draft capital. You're giving up mid-round picks most likely. I mean, maybe
so probably a third rounder, right?
Third rounder, correct.
Third rounder and
Jets
fifth
have
rounder.
2 third rounders next year.
So you think a third rounder and a fifth rounder?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a rental player. That's tough.
A rental player that can be super dynamic for this offense, a guy that has the most chemistry that it's ever had with Aaron Rodgers. Yep. It would unlock the most potential for Aaron Rodgers. It would unlock the most potential, in my opinion, and I just think the benefits and the positives outweigh the negatives into what you're saying about the player itself. Davante will open space for Breece Hall. He will give space for Garrett Wilson. It will allow the Jets to be able to operate a little bit cleaner, in my opinion, because you're going to have to respect that number 1 wide receiver on the outside, because I think there's still talent and ability. It may not be what it was it isn't what it was 3 or 4 years ago with Aaron and Davante, but they have so much chemistry and they know on the page, and you heard it there in the clip, Davante knows when Aaron's going to be signaling for audibles, when he wants to get the checks, that's
what we talked about what Garrett is not doing right now. Davante.
He's not.
Yeah,
he's not.
I agree with that. But I just worry. I worry the age, and I worry the effect in the locker room. And, I don't really love how he's handled his time in Las Vegas either. I mean, I would have to do some digging on that. Like, I didn't watch that receiver series on Netflix.
I did.
Yeah, I heard he did not come across very well.
He didn't.
Yeah. And obviously this, I have a hamstring injury, and I guess there was this thing. I just read this where he left for 10 days in training camp because he had a baby. And then when he came back, They wanted to play a preseason game.
They wanted to play all their starters.
I think all of a sudden he came up with an injury that day because Pierce said the only way out of it is if you're injured. And all of a sudden he was injured the next day. So,
and this is what I was saying about.
Obviously, Rodgers knows him, and maybe Rodgers could, playing with Rodgers would make him happy, and he wouldn't be in a bad place. But I would have to do some digging on that.
I think that goes without saying. I think if he plays with Rodgers, he's going to be happy. I think also with Davante, like he thought he was going to Las Vegas to play with Derek Carr, and the Raiders ultimately cut ties with Derek Carr after that one season, and that was it. And then he's like, "Oh, where are we going from here?" And to be frank, the organization said, "Well, we're going to go with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew." So that's tough on a wide receiver, but I get it. Like there's that huger argument and that bigger discussion for the offseason about wanting, crying for better players around you. You're getting paid a lot of money to be that star wide receiver, so you really should be playing with whoever is at quarterback and making it work. And I think that goes to the benefit of someone like a Garrett Wilson who's gone through the past couple of years, his first two years of his career, with the worst quarterback play. It's like, okay, now you're with Aaron. Now it's tough. Now it's like, all right, here you go. Now you have to adjust. Now you have to figure out how to get on the same page with him. I just wonder if someone like Davante can be that mentor for him if you do bring him into that locker room. I know what you're saying. Would it upset him in the apple card? I don't know, man. Like you're telling me Aaron wouldn't want to get the ball in Davante and Garrett Wilson's hands more than any time in the game with those two guys?
I think we're past the point of mentorship for Garrett. Garrett's in his third year, right? I don't think he needs a mentor. I mean, maybe someone to kind of help him learn Aaron a little, like but Lazard is there too. I think he would trust Davante so much. He'd be going to Davante, Lazard, Davante, Lazard, Mike Williams, Garrett, Davante. Like, I just think I think he has, like, when Rodgers speaks about him, it's like, oh my gosh, like he's clearly his favorite teammate that he's ever had, like as a receiver at least. Bakhtiari talks about like that too. So, I just wonder what would happen with the targets. And I don't know, Ryan, I've been around a lot of wide receivers. They're never happy if they're not getting the ball. So,
well,
I just question how that would go. But I understand the arguments for it. I get it. I just have a little more hesitancy, I think, than everybody else.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it. I'm trying to talk you a little bit on our side here, but I get what you're saying. You're looking at it as a realistic part with
I like younger players.
No, yeah, I hear you. It's just my problem is
this team has gotten really old really fast. Like they were on like a decent trajectory with young players, and then all of a sudden it was like, they got 2 33-year-old tackles. They got obviously the quarterback. I understand, but he is 40. And now you're talking about bringing on a 31-year-old wide receiver. Like they're getting right. Pretty old pretty fast.
But you still have Garrett. You drafted Malachi Corley. You have Breece Hall.
Malachi Corley didn't play a snap last week.
Maybe he should be playing more over Xavier Gibson. That should go without saying. Again, this has come down to coaching and decisions, and I understand what you're saying. And Corley,
I think it shows you that Corley doesn't know how to run routes.
Does he, or is it the team doesn't trust him and you went all in and trying to get him? We saw the documentary in the offseason about you.
I mean, they loved him, and I just think he had a really bad training camp. And I think they don't. I
can't see any more 3rd and 8 fade balls to get Xavier Gibson. We got to stop doing that. Tell me Corley can't run a fade, because I think he can, and I think you can get him the ball and also screens. Get him involved in the game. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Ultimately, for this Davante Adams situation, it could happen today. It could happen tomorrow when we're recording this. What's your feeling on this? Do the Jets ultimately end up with Davante Adams in the next couple of weeks?
Yes, but I think it's going to be later rather than sooner. I don't think it's happening now. I mean, Jets, the entire organization is basically going to London. But we're recording this on Thursday. They're heading there after practice tonight. So, obviously there's phones in London, but I don't see what the motivation would be to do it right now, because you're not going to use him on Sunday, and he has a hamstring injury, which I don't know how serious that is or not. And then, but the salary goes down $900,000 a week. So I think from a Jets perspective, that's appealing. And I also think from a Raiders perspective, the compensation keeps going up as the salary goes down, right? Because it's more and more palatable for teams. The more the salary goes down, and the more the Raiders could ask for potentially and create a possible bidding war. I also think teams are going to get more desperate as time goes on, right? If the Jets Jets lose Sunday. Are they more desperate now on Tuesday to do something than they are today? Probably. Same thing could be said for the Saints or the Bills or whoever else might be involved, Steelers, whoever else might be involved in this. I think the Raiders are in a good position as long as they can tolerate the noise and don't feel like the noise is affecting their team. I don't see any reason for the Raiders to be in a rush to get this done.
Yeah, certainly. We're all going to be paying attention. We have our Adam Schefter notifications on. That's for sure. Coz, let's actually talk about this game on Sunday against the Vikings. This is a team you're going up against that's undefeated, the Vikings, a team that's played better than I think most teams were expected before the season started from Minnesota. They have some impressive wins and pieces on this offense. This is a matchup where you're facing an old friend in Sam Darnold, right? So this has got a lot of fun storylines heading into this game on Sunday. Coz, before we get into the actual X's and O's of it, what are you looking forward to most in this matchup here between the Vikings and Jets?
Really to see how the Jets respond, Ryan. Like we talked about, that game was not good. And I thought Wednesday at the Jets was as tense a building as I've been in a long time. And it was weird for 2-2. Saleh was really tense in his press conference. And then the locker room there was nobody in there. Like they were avoiding us. And I spoke to one player who just commented on how weird the feeling is inside the building right now. And how, I think, I just think they're feeling a lot of pressure off of that game. And I'm curious to see how they respond this week. And I think Rodgers is a guy who thrives on doubters, and he's got doubters this week. So I think he could have a really good game on Sunday. So that's what I'm most interested to see.
Yeah, and I can see how that can happen this week because there's some things. While the Vikings defense has been praised this year because of Brian Flores, they are aggressive, and we saw we saw a little bit of a formula from the Broncos and what they were doing. They blitzed Rodgers and the Jets offense 21 times this past Sunday. Rodgers versus the blitz this past Sunday was 11-17. He threw for 90 yards, no touchdowns, at a 12.7 QBR versus the blitz this last Sunday. Brian Flores loves blitzing, and it's probably going to be the same formula, and it's going to be the same situation. But there is a weakness to this Vikings defense. They've given up the most passing yards in the NFL this year. I mean, they are one of the worst teams in the NFL when it comes to versus the pass. However, they are stronger against the run. So is that how the Jets win this game? Are they going to get, we talked about him, Garrett Wilson? It's time to have an explosion game this Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Garrett has an explosive game, but I think they pass for a lot of yards. I think they do. I think that's going to be how they win this game, is by throwing the ball. And I do think they blitz a little differently than Denver blitzes. So I think, and I do think that was a good precursor for this game for them to see the blitz and the offensive line to sort of work out their communication problems. And they should, theoretically they should have a better week this week than last week. They better, so if they want to hope to win. But yeah, I think they'll be able to throw on the Vikings this week.
Yeah, I wonder what they can do to adjust for the Jets offense when they do face this blitz so much. Are they going to call more screen passes? Can you get Breece Hall involved more in the passing game? Tyler Conklin, get him involved.
I think they can get the ball out quicker too. Like I do think, I know the rain was both sides, but if you looked, I thought both quarterbacks had a tough time throwing that ball on Sunday. Yeah. Like Bo Nix at one point looked like he was shot putting it. Because I heard from a few guys that the ball was really heavy. Like the ball was getting soaked and was just a really heavy football. And even Aaron, there was a few throws where the ball looked like it just came out of his hand funny. So I think, I do think the elements played a role in Sunday's performance. So, I do think maybe they can get the ball out a little quicker this week and have more success that way.
Yeah, that's what was my question was, can Rodgers and Hackett make the necessary adjustments here? They know the blitz is going to be coming from the Vikings. Can they get the ball out quicker to their guys? And then Rodgers has familiarity. It obviously personnel changes, coaches changes, but he's played the Vikings a ton of times in his career as a Green Bay Packers. He
I think he likes that too, Ryan. Like I'm with you. The personnel is completely different. Probably, maybe there's probably a few guys left. Harrison Smith still playing safety for them, so there's probably a few guys there. But I do think Rodgers kind of thrives. We all know the Bears. The I own you, that thing. I do think he's going to enjoy whenever he sees an NFC North opponent. He's going to get up for it.
Yeah, he's got 17, 11, and 1 career versus the Vikings. He's thrown for 57 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in 29 games against the Vikings, 108.4 passer rating in those games. Ultimately, Coz, and the last thing I wanted to ask is Breece Hall, will he get going in this game? It's, and he hasn't had that Breece game. I know he's going up against the Vikings defense that's stronger against the run this year. Is it going to be more of the same that we see from Breece Hall this weekend?
Yeah, I don't think he'll have a great running game. I do think he'll be a bigger factor in the passing game, though. I think they can get him involved there, and he can have a big game there. I don't think they'll be able to run for a lot of yards on this defense, and I don't expect Morgan Moses to play. So and Olu did not have a good game last week. So I think the running yards might be tough to get.
All right, guys, let's flip it over to the Jets defense. The Broncos were able to run the ball in the second half, I thought. They made some pretty good adjustments. They were able to go down the field and score on that touchdown drive. The Jets defense, we saw C.J. Mosley is back practicing. I wonder if he comes back. I'll start there. Do you think C.J. Mosley plays on Sunday?
I do. I do think he'll be back Sunday.
Okay, so that could help the Jets defense against a Sam Darnold-led offense. Sam Darnold, he's having an incredible year already start to the year. 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He looks like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He's playing like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. How does this Jets defense get pressure on Sam Darnold and try to force him to make mistakes? What are they going to do against this offense?
Yeah, I think they might have to blitz more than they've liked, which they did a few weeks ago against New England. But this offensive line is really good. They're playing really well for the Vikings. And, that's with Sam. I think, Sam had issues on his own of reading coverages and things like that. But when Sam has a really good offensive line and good receivers, you knew he'd be pretty good. Like there was enough glimpses with the Jets. Things have to be perfect for Sam. That's the problem. I don't think Sam is a player who elevates those around him, like a Rodgers does or a Mahomes does, like the great quarterbacks. But I think Sam can be a good quarterback when he has a good supporting cast, and he does with the Vikings right now. So yeah, they're gonna have to figure out how to get. They had no sacks against the Broncos, which the defense. It's funny. I do this report card after the game, right, and fans go crazy. And I gave the defense a C+ last week, and then people are like, "How could you give them a C+? They only have 10 points." I didn't really feel like it was great defense last week. I felt like it was bad offense. I thought bonus was just terrible. And
I agree.
The other part, Ryan, is like this defense fancies themselves as the best defense in the NFL, right? They always talk about that they think they can be that. At some point, they got to win a game for the Jets with a touchdown. They needed to score last week, and I know that's a big ask, but if you look back at the great defenses, like they score points, and I thought that the Jets they only had the one turnover when Quincy caused the fumble. They had no interceptions. I think they only have one interception this season right now, and it's Brandon Eccles on the Gopher ball from Will Levis. So I don't know. I think I'd like to see more from this defense. I think this is a good test for them. How do they handle Justin Jefferson is going to be a big question.
That was my next question.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they don't like to follow. So
no, I know. The last time I watched the matchup again, the last time they faced him in 2022, it was mostly DJ Reed on him. Maybe a little Brandon Eccles as well. He had 11 targets, 7 receptions, 45 yards. They limited him to 45 yards, but he did have a touchdown catch in that game.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sauce. Are they going to have him travel with just Jefferson?
So what I've noticed is they really aren't traveling Sauce like every down, like a Revis type of thing. What they'll do is on third down, they'll move Sauce to a guy, right? So he was last week. I saw he was on third. I don't have the next gen stats or anything in front of me, but he was on Cortland Sutton to my eye a lot on third down, and they've done that in the past with different guys. San Francisco, he was going on Kittle sometimes on third down, so I could see them doing something like that on third down, maybe moving Sauce on Justin Jefferson, but on first and second playing sides and whatever side he lines up on. I mean, DJ Reed had a great game last week. I thought he had a really nice game. So they trust him. But, yeah, Jefferson's a handful. And they're humming right now, the Vikings. So we'll see.
They are. And then one of the bigger parts for them, too, is Aaron Jones. They got him over from the Packers. He's off to a great start this year as well. He's great in the run and in the pass game. Jets run defense, again, another storyline coming out of last Sunday's game.
Yeah.
How do they fix this with Mosley coming back? Does that help? I saw Leke Foto is practicing. They activated him.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he'll play.
I don't know if he's going to play, right?
21-day practice window. It's a hamstring, so I've seen him running on the sides and stuff. So I'm curious to see if he plays. He could help. Yeah, no, I mean they've always had the struggles against the run this year, especially when the team also can pass. Like that's been the San Francisco they're able to run, and in the second half last week they got real leaky on the defense against the Broncos. So this one, you can't sell out to stop the run in this game. Because you got Justin. Jordan. We haven't even talked about Jordan Addison. He's pretty freaking good too.
I know.
They've got weapons, and so you can't sell out to stop the run. So I'm curious on this one, how the Jets perform against the run.
Yep, facing two old friends in Sam Darnold and Kevin O'Connell as the head coach. A lot of familiarity there with this franchise and those two guys playing for the Vikings.
I don't think there's anyone left. All right, I mean, no one's left from Kevin O'Connell, that's for sure.
No. No, I'm just talking as an organization.
Quinnen and CJ are probably the guys who played with Sam. And Connor McGovern was here too. Connor McGovern's on the practice squad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about it.
Coz, I gotta be honest with you though, and this is something I think fans are talking about too, and maybe they're wrong, maybe they got something that alarms them a little bit. Can we get Quinnen Williams going? Can Quinnen Williams be a factor in the pass rush here? I understand double teams and triple teams, but he is not. I'm sorry, he's not played well to start the year. I don't care what anyone says. I've watched the film; it's not been pretty for him sometimes.
I disagree. I think
all right.
Fine. I think he's been in the backfield a lot. Yes, he's not getting sacks. I'm not sure he's ever gonna have a season like he did a couple years ago when he had all those sacks. It's just, but he creates things for other people. Like one play comes to mind last week. He got in the backfield and it was a running play. He blew it up, and Quincy actually was the one who came in and cleaned it up. There's plays like that in every single game where Quinnen, he just F's things up, and he gets in there and he messes the play up, and usually someone else cleans it up and gets the stat. But I think Quinnen's fine. I think he's playing well, and he draws a lot of attention. I think he just needs the guys around him to do more, and Will McDonald, I think, is the only one that's really doing well pass rush wise right now. They need to get some more out of the other guys. I mean, Michael Clemens has been quiet. Kinlaw had a good game. What was it, New England?
Yeah.
He played really well, but he hasn't done a whole lot. So they need to get more out of those guys up front.
Yeah, there's that guy in the free agent called Hassan Reddick, but not free agent. He's on your team, but he's not even here. But we don't even talk about him anymore.
He's like a forgotten man at this point. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy, man.
I don't think he's ever going to play for them at this point now.
That's crazy.
He's willing to lose the money. He's never going to make this money back. Nope. So I don't know. I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know what he's doing either. Yeah. And then we saw the Rappaport thing, the Jets, if they. Can I ask you something, Coz? Did you see the Josina tweet about Hassan Reddick?
Yeah.
Is that true? If the Jets trade him, they're going to have to owe another pick?
No. So what it is there are certain teams, if the Jets trade him to, the pick goes from a 3 to a 2. It is one pick. The pick goes from a third round pick to a second round pick, right? Like the conditions on the playing time.
Right. The conditions on the playing time aren't going to happen.
Right. But it's also if they trade him to specific teams. I don't know those specific teams, but I'm going to highly, highly doubt that the Raiders, I think this was in the context of him and the Raiders. My guess is that's the Giants, the Commanders, and the Cowboys, right? I think the Eagles probably put protection in the deal so that he wouldn't end up in the division. And maybe like a 49ers, like if they're thinking NFC Championship game or something. But I don't think it's a lot of teams. I do know that is in the deal, but I don't know what the teams are.
I don't know what's going on with that situation anymore. It's crazy.
I don't think anyone's going to trade for him at this point.
No, it's the dumbest holdout I've ever seen in my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a cool situation.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I don't understand what he's doing. He's going to be 30, 31, right?
He just turned 30 in September.
Just turned 30, right? Yeah, you're never going to be better in your career, but it's okay. Whatever. Hold out for a year, miss a year of football. That always works out well. All right, Coz, let's talk about the over-unders because you had actually had a pretty decent week last week. I've been tracking these because you asked me to now. Your overall record on over-unders is 14-8-1 on the season.
All right, in the plus.
Very profitable. That's plus 600 units right there. That's good. Plus 6 units you want. That's a good stuff. 4-2 last week on the props. But we're going to start off this week with Aaron Rodgers over under 221 and a half passing yards and 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Over.
I agree.
Yeah, I think he's got a big week.
Me too. Let's talk about his wide receiver, that one that seems to be kind of getting a little frustrated here. Garrett Wilson, 4.5 receptions and 49.5 receiving yards.
Over. I think
agree.
Yeah, I think if we're going to give Rodgers a big day, I don't think Garrett's going to go off and have a huge day, but those numbers are real low.
Okay. Now we got Breece Hall, 49.5 rushing yards. Low. It's low.
It's low. I'm going to go under. Because I just don't think the Jets are going to have a lot of success running the ball this week.
I wonder if Braylon Allen has much more success running the ball. All right, let's flip it over to the Vikings side. Let's talk about Sam Darnold. 1.5 passing touchdowns, 219.5 passing yards.
Wow, those are good numbers. I'm going to go over on those two. I think like 2 touchdowns, and I think 240, something like that he could have.
Okay, Sammy looks like he's going to be dicing a little bit here. Justin Jefferson, 5.5 receptions, 75.5 receiving yards.
I'm going to go over on the receptions and under on the yards.
I agree. Just going to try and stop him there.
Yeah, I think he'll have his catches, but I don't think they're going to let him do that much damage.
And finally, Mr. Aaron Jones, 66.5 rushing yards. Woof.
Over.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a low number for him.
All right. Coz prediction time. Let's talk about it. Sunday, 9:30, Jets, Vikings. 4-0 Vikings, 2-2 Jets. Can the Jets get a win? What do you think, man?
I think the Jets are going to win this game, Ryan. I think they're going to bounce back, and we're going to be laughing next week about how the sky was falling this week, and then 2 weeks before everything was Super Bowl. I think we'll be back next week to talking about can the Jets go to the Super Bowl? So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think both offenses are going to have success again in this game. So I'm going to go Jets 31, Vikings 27.
Okay, that is a high score. That is a lot of points right there. It's 58 points you got right there?
Yeah.
All right. You are 2-2 in this year. I am 2-2 as well. I think the Jets win this game as well. It feels weird. The tension in the building makes me feel that they are tightening everything up. They are trying to clean shit up, hopefully, in this game and hopefully play better. And yeah, I think this is a Vikings team. While they're good, I think they're beatable. I just get this feeling that the Jets are just going to somehow win this game. I'm going to say
thing, Ryan, too, before you get to your score, I'd say like someone who bets a lot told me all the time, always bet against the 0 when you get to this point in the season. So if a team is 4-0, bet against them. If a team is 0-4, bet on them. Like it's hard to lose or win that many games in a row. So I think that part's working against the Vikings as well.
Vikings are 2.5 point favorite in this game, by the way, heading into Sunday. So
hasn't moved all week, right?
Hasn't moved all week. It's 2.5. So I think honestly, the Jets win 24-17, win by a touchdown.
Can we get the tape of all your predictions?
Yeah, sure.
Have you picked 24 points every week?
I do. 3 touchdowns and 1 field goal. That's what I always think this offense needs. You scored.
Right. They scored 24 points against the Titans and the Patriots, right?
And the Patriots. Yeah. That's how you win football games. 24 points. If you get to 24, I think this defense can hold the opposing team to less than
24. What? What was the score?
24-17.
Wow. I feel like you've picked that score 3 weeks in a row.
I have, because I think that's the winning formula for them. I think it's the winning formula. I mean, I could say 24-20 if you want. I mean, kick a late field goal, 24-17. That's how
they're holding the Vikings to 17 points, huh?
Yeah, I think they can actually. I'm going to throw a little bit of money on this. Jets are going to get an interception at Sam Darnold this weekend.
Whoa.
Yep. And
Sauce?
I mean, that'd be awesome. I don't know if it's going to be sauce. It'd be awesome if it was. It's going to be something weird. It's going to be like Ashton Davis, like interception, You know what I mean? You can see it. It's going to happen that way.
Ashton Davis and Brandon Eccles have more interceptions than Sauce the last several years.
That's probably what's going to happen. Coz, enjoy the game Sunday. Hopefully the food gets a little bit better for you. But we're looking forward to seeing all your coverage throughout the weekend for that game. And we'll talk to you next week, man. We'll see how it goes.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.